I bet you didn't know that I named pretty much everything. Cars, coats, electronics, even a couple of pillows. And the reason is because words have meaning. And when they don't, I make sure that they do. What's up, good people? My name is Stacie, and I really do name everything. My car is named Kiki. We have an awesome relationship. She really didn't mind the pandemic. She got a chance to kind of rest and recover from some of the miles that had been driven before. And she's really happy with this 2 days a week into the office scenario. So hopefully that'll stay the same, at least for the time being. I also have a coat that I call the Snow Beast. It replaced a treasured possession of mine called Bluey, and that was my blue winter coat. Now, I didn't say all the names were winners, but they do have names, okay? My laptop is called Raconteur Prime. My cell phone is Raconteur Pro. And I have a pillow named Levi. So Levi helps me sleep. It's a body pillow, and Levi's amazing. I, of course, have countless stuffed animals, but naming a stuffed animal is not nearly as interesting as some of the other things that I name. But just a side note, when did they start calling stuffed animals plushies? I sort of like it, but I missed it until I started watching my great nieces and nephews, and I'm like, oh, there's talking about stuffed animals, and they're like plushies and puppets. I don't know where those words came from. But anyway, let me reel it back. When it comes to naming things, it's not just something weird that I do. It actually can be quite valuable when it comes to professional settings and working on things. One of the things I chose to work really hard at coming up with a name for was a knowledge management system that I was working on. The reason it was so important for me to name it is because, like I said in the intro, words have meaning, and instead of it just being whatever the vendor name was or whatever the random piece of software that you've installed or leveraging is called, which is so generic and everybody calls it that, I wanted to make sure that they knew what they were getting out of it. Now, I'm not going to give you all the names because, well, it's to protect the innocent or the guilty or something like that. But the idea was that instead of just calling it an off-the-shelf solution, I made sure that it had another kind of name. I researched the name. I made sure that the name, again, had meaning. And one of the most fantastic things that happened was when I started hearing other people share with others and or say back to me the words that I had carefully selected to describe and talk about this knowledge management system. Because it has meaning. And when something has meaning, I don't know, it just adds a little bit more color to everything to some degree. I love that I name things like my hair. My hair has a name. Her name is Lauren. Some of you already know Lauren. We sometimes call her Lolo when she is in somewhat of a mood. But again, it gives just a little something extra that sometimes can make something that's mundane more exciting. It can make it more interesting. Helps you to see different parallels, but mostly allows you to have some ownership, right? When something has a name, like even naming a team at work, instead of just being Team Bacon, which would be an awesome name. Bacon's for everybody, right? So like Team Bacon would definitely be a cool name. But in my experience, I've always made naming the team a group activity, a team activity, right? Something that we all contributed to so that we all could have ownership of it. Because when we hear that name, we want it to be able to have pride in what it stands for. I give you a very tangible example of that. I was on a team and we actually struggled to try to find things that we had in common. And so we thought that that would be somewhat of a problem for us. We were not the most cohesive team to start out with. But as we talked and as we worked things out, we realized that while we didn't all have cats, we were all kind of closet cat people. We either love cats, had a cat, something related to cats. And so We all saw ourselves as, the proverbial rock star, superstar contributors at work. So we looked up superheroes for cats, and we found one, and we named our team after it. And it really was something that galvanized us, and I think made us a very, very strong team. And that's not to say you should put every effort into naming things. Sometimes it's just good enough to say, hey, send me that spreadsheet. But then again, if it were some sort of specific project, it's better than the Q4 report. It could have a name, it could have a code name, it could have something that means something based on what you're trying to accomplish or a goal that you're trying to meet. Again, it's about telling a story, and there's so many different ways to tell a story. There's so many different aspects to storytelling that have countless benefits. It's been studied, it's been proven. So I want to encourage everybody to lean into that a little bit. When something's super generic and nobody seems excited about it, considering giving it a name. I mean, to be truthful, even things that are not necessarily the most positive of scenarios can sometimes benefit from a name, because then they become the object of frustration or anger, as opposed to perhaps the people that are in the middle of orchestrating it. Instead of their peers, instead of their leaders, we can quote unquote rally around something that we want to eliminate by also giving it a name. So while I attribute my incessant need to name things to my creativity, to my storytelling, to some possible neurodivergence, I'm not sure. I might need to be tested. But it can be a really, really useful tool. In that grain, I actually worked at a place where we weren't very happy working there. And that place did go out of business. So if that's any indicator, and I won't get into where that place was, but if anybody who was working there were to hear this, they would remember that we would say to one another that the peacock has red shoes. Now, how we came up with that, I have no idea. But it was just a way to share our frustration amongst peers about, different situations. And we didn't have to, spend a ton of time lamenting and commiserating about these things that we weren't happy with. We could just say, well, the peacock does have red shoes, and and we would move on from there, right? It was kind of like a way to say, yep, we all know, we all understand, let's keep pushing together. And again, it bonded us, and I'm still friends with those people that I worked with to this day. Another key aspect of naming things or renaming things is, again, do it with intention. You don't want to just be random about it. Let's call this one Flubber, or let's call this one Blue. Like, it's hard for me to come up with random names because again, I have to see it. I have to know why we're naming it that, and so you need to be intentional as well if you want to kind of get into the naming game. You can try random, because random can generate other ideas. It can bring you some positive movement. But again, it's all about intention. And the funny thing about it is when you do it right, people don't even really realize that that's what you did, that you took the time to carefully name something. I doubt anybody would recognize the effort that's gone into naming sections and areas and tooling and things like that where I work. I just need it to work. I don't need to be put on a pedestal for it. At the end of the day, if you use generic terms, you're going to get generic engagement. It's just human nature. It's kind of how we are. It's a reason that marketing and branding and things like that is billions and billions of dollars go into it every year, because words have meaning. And like I said, when they don't, I do my best to make sure that they do. Similar to the example I used about the peacocks having red shoes, naming can sometimes really help you with the heavy lifting. Because again, once you've described something, or you use words and imagery that already have accepted meaning, widely accepted meaning, or even if you have to define what that meaning is, once you do that, that connection starts to solidify. And so you don't have to go into the granular detail every time, because what you've named it, how you've positioned it, will tell the story ahead of you, as well as to help enriching the story. So again, increasing that engagement. So yes, I name pretty much everything because it turns the generic into something personal. And I'm a very personal person. I am a very team-oriented type of person as well. And I love collaboration and things that draw us together. So you guys can look forward to my Making Words Matter leadership guide. It'll come a little bit later. I'm pretty much only doing guides and toolkits like once a month. Unless you want something more frequently, drop it in the comments. Tell me that you want that deeper dive. Again, if you would do me a favor, like, subscribe, turn the bell on, share it with somebody. I would love for them to get an opportunity to think about what it means to be intentional about naming things and to make things more personal and engaging, whether it's at work or again in your personal life. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few of my friends back here. So of course they have names, and this is Hoots, Mimi, and Spark. So they'll be joining me on some of my Makers Mondays and in other content pieces and things like that. So let me know what you think of their names, and if this is something that you've ever done. Like, have you named something that just kind of seemed peculiar? And if not, like I said, join me later. We'll figure out how to name some stuff together. All right, my name is Stacie. Take it easy. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Cue the music.
My name is Stacie. 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 My name is Stacie.